I kind of walk through that. It's the same stuff I walk people through kind of every day in the court system.
Yeah. So let's talk on that.
Yeah.
I came into contact with you kind of, I wouldn't say in direct relation to what you do, but you've definitely been a resource for me personally. And I know in tandem with Jason too, and helping people with this court system. But talk on that. What do you do now?
Yeah. So what I do is, I mean, they label it as court services or a court liaison. I've been working in this industry for almost 14 years. I've helped probably over 1,000 families, and I've probably appeared in over 800 court cases or written reports to them, right? What I do is I've taken my experience, so I'm able to connect with those individuals. Sometimes a person's bottom is getting in trouble with the law, right? Getting possession charge, DUI, whatever it might be. I work with those individuals, the courts, with the attorneys down here and the treatment centers to get them what is diversion or alternative sentencing. So that's basically what I specialize in. That's all I do. Now, attorneys, there's some great attorneys out there and they know how to do that, but this is something I do every day, all day, right? So I know a lot of the ins and outs to what needs to be done, what the treatment episode looks like, what the individual is going to need to do, and what that individual can expect even after treatment, right? Because it doesn't end there.
It doesn't stop.
Right. And that's, I've done that for treatment centers down here. I did work with Jason for an extended period of time at the same treatment center. Today, I started my own consultant business, and that's what I do. I consult families, which allows me to just reach more people, which I love that, right? But I consult families with people. I'm that person, they joke, I'm the person that you put just above 911, right? You call me, I'm the one taking the jail calls, right? It is just something that I love to do because if you could put together a position that I was good at with all my skill sets, absolutely. I'm able to connect with somebody that maybe nobody else can, because they can't sit there and tell me that I haven't been where they're at because I have, most of the stuff that people go through, like, yeah, I did that, and it allows me to connect with those people and gain their trust. And I'm very honest and direct with my clients. I let them know what to expect. I don't really sugarcoat too much stuff. And I stay, we're not supposed to, at some level, we're supposed to have this separation. I really can't do my work that way. Like I tend to treat all of my clients like part of my family. Like, what would I do for my family member? Like, if this was my brother, if this was my son, if this was my daughter, what would I do? And for me, it's to go to any lengths necessary to keep them from a jail sentence that's not going to help anyone. Right. It doesn't help our system. It doesn't help the individuals going in. They usually come out in worse shape than when they went in. And that's before drugs and alcohol hit,
Right.
Because I noticed over the years, I was just talking with one of the judge that deals with the probation violations. He's like, man, this is crazy, William. Like, they just keep going in and out. I see the same people every month. And those people tend to go in, get sober, and then they come out and they try to do drugs or alcohol like they were doing it before, and they overdose or relapse, or it's worse than before.
Yeah, and at that point, I mean, going to jail is the positive side of the coin. I mean, the very other real side is by doing what they were doing without having that tolerance and stuff. I mean, death is a real option here.
Yeah, it very much is. And for the most part, that you will see that a lot. It's just not something you read about all the time. I experience it a lot because I know some of the people that keep reoffending, and those people will get to a certain level in their addiction, and then they'll go do 30, 60, or 90 days in jail, and then they come out like they don't care anymore, because their life's over. They go out, they use, and then that's when the problem really begins, because they'll end up in the hospital, they end up dead. So.
No, I absolutely love that not only do you use your alcoholism, drug addiction experience, but because you walked out all of those legal issues and the situation and the opportunities you were given, you can even go deeper in this other aspect where somebody like a person that drank too much golfing, they couldn't help somebody like that. I mean, it's just like what I get to do with trauma. I get to help and implement those things. I just really kudos off to you.
Thank you.
Really. It's absolutely fantastic. I do want to ask you, so I want to hear about your son.
Okay.
And your son, you had said before, is 19.
Yes.
You've been sober 14 years. Kind of switching that up from a parent standpoint. I know you talked about how your son kind of helped make some changes for you where you knew you had a problem, but I want to hear how that's been for you coming into sobriety and that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thankfully, honestly, Aiden has a wonderful mother. She's an incredible woman. When I got out of, that was when Aiden was born. My wife at the time, she was sober. Aiden was born. She did relapse eventually, but there was one point where I remember her calling me one evening, and we had been separated at this time, and she just asked me to go to treatment with her, and I just told her I couldn't, I wasn't ready, and she went. And
how old was he?
He was, I want to say 2 years, 3 years old.
Okay.
2 years old. I think around 18 months to 2 years. So she goes to treatment, and I ended up actually probably a week later after she made that call, like that's just when all the dominoes started to fall for me in terms of getting in trouble. Because literally, I mean, 3 of the cases that I was involved in was probably in a month and a half. But she went to treatment. I ended up going to jail, and when I went to prison, I remember that she was in a treatment center. Aiden actually was living with her sister because, Aiden's mom wasn't doing well. But when she got into treatment, I think she was there for about 6 months. And Aiden actually came and lived with her after that for about 6 months in the treatment center. So Aiden
was that in California?
Yeah.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah, Aiden knows a lot about treatment, probably way too much because he's never had a problem with drugs and alcohol. But
good for him.
But he's when I got out, his mother was very hard on me, and it was for a good reason. She made me work to be in his life.
How old was he when you got out? And did he come visit you in prison?
No, she would not allow that. So she wouldn't allow me to write him. I think the story was that she just told him I was somewhere, your dad's sick and he's getting better. He's somewhere. And then she just stopped telling that story because she didn't know what was going to happen with me. Because, I went from Nancy Clark's relapse and then now I'm back in prison. She just really didn't know what was going to turn out with me. So when I got out, and I remember the first time going down to see Aiden.
How old was he again? How old was he?
6 years old.
Okay.
I think that's right. 6. Yeah, 6 years old. And I hadn't seen him in 34 months, or probably longer than that. So I hadn't seen him for almost 3 years. I had been writing, and then she eventually told me to stop writing. And I always respected his mom, no matter what condition I was in. The one time he did see me was he saw me when I went and did the eulogy at my dad's funeral. His mother would not let me really go around him, but that's okay. Right, I kind of earned all of that in a way. When I got out, the first time I saw Aiden didn't know who I was. He asked his mom, like, "Who's that man?" And I remember his mom looking at me and going, "You're going to have to answer that for him." Like she did not want. She's like, "If you want to be in his life, you have to work." So she just kind of walked off, and it went from there. And it was like it probably took me 3 years, honestly, of just being consistent. Right. Yep. I remember that there was a time, because when I got out of prison, my mom's not going to give me any more money. She's not supporting anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I really didn't have much. And finally, when I got a car, because he lived in Palm Springs at this time, like up that way. Wow. There's some weekends, and I never told her that. In fact, nobody really knows this. I just had enough gas to get up there and get back, and maybe get us a couple of meals. Right, because I did not have a job. Like I was doing a lot of things like collecting cans and stuff like just to make some money, and then I was getting some SASCA money, which was,
what's
for
SASCA?
SASCA was a funded project that actually funded treatment for people coming out of prison and jail. It's one of those things that kept going in and out. Like they would fund it and they'd take it away. There's a lot of programs like that because there's a lot of money out there. They just don't publicize it, and it always gets taken so much. And like places like Nancy Clark and Yellowstone, which is where I ended up going, those places do really good work. And those places get that funding, but they take it away all the time. But there was one, like when I was going up on the weekends, like I had a car. I got my mom actually gave me my father's truck after I had gotten some sobriety. I was driving that there on the weekends, telling his mom that, I had a motel because she wouldn't let me go anywhere with him. Like I could take him to lunch or whatever, but he couldn't spend the night with me. She wasn't ready for all that. So I was going up there and sleeping in my truck because I didn't even have enough money for a motel. And I would sleep in my truck and get up and go pick up my son the next day. And we'd go to Denny's and we'd have to split a meal. And I'll tell you what, that was some of the funnest times. Like when I was so broke, like that was the best times I had with Aiden because he thought it was cool we were sharing a meal. I'm like, we're sharing a meal because I don't have any money. But the funny thing is my son today is amazing. One of the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me in my recovery, the thing that I'm most proud of, is at the age of 18, my son decided to live with me. And he now lives with me today. And I think that is my greatest accomplishment, is my son wanting to be around me and live with me. And I love it. I'm making up for so much lost time because I get him in my life every day. And it's probably just at the right time. He's becoming a young adult and he's so incredible. But he's very intelligent about treatment, about recovery. And he's very, it's so funny because his mother and I are awful addicts. He's very turned off by drugs and alcohol. I don't know if he's tried, dabbled or what. Today, I can tell you that my son doesn't even go around it, doesn't party with it, nothing like that. So I guess I'm blessed in that way. I'm not saying that he's never going to, but I just don't think he has any desire to. I don't know if it's that skipped gene thing or he just had so much experience with it that, he just doesn't have a desire to do that. And plus, here's the thing too, is like a lot of people that I come in contact with fathers that are trying to reconnect with their kid. You know what the funny thing is? My son doesn't remember when he's 6. All he remembers is his dad was showing up every weekend. Like that's all he remembers. Like, and I was so scared of that, that like he would realize that I wasn't there for the first 6 years. And he really doesn't. I talked to my son about that probably 3 or 4 years ago. And the conversation kind of went like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about, like I was kind of making amends with him, right? For those years. And he's like, yeah, I don't remember. I'm just happy that you're here today, Dad. I'm like, oh, okay, well, good talk.
That was easy.
Yeah, right. Like the stuff that was weighing so heavily on me, it doesn't really matter. Like if you just end up being in their lives, that's all they care about. Because and it's so funny because I'm so quick to forgive my son for things, and I think he's the same way. You don't want to be mad at somebody that you love and care about, or upset with. So yeah, that was one of that happened 2 years ago. He making that decision. It was the most amazing moment in my recovery, my life, was my son wanting to be with me. And I love it. I love every day.
In the present day, today, tomorrow, yesterday, what do you do to maintain your own sobriety? I know that while you were in prison, you were obviously sober, but you weren't really working a program or anything. You were just kind of sober by being locked up.
Yeah.
And then you connected with a mentor who, got you started on the current path of recovery that you're on now.
Yeah.
So what do you do as part of your personal program?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, last year changed a lot of things for me, for a lot of people. And I had to adjust. But I'm doing some of the same things that I've always done. I believe it's kind of like a mind, body, and soul thing, right? I'm one of those individuals that if I'm not wearing myself out throughout the day, that I'm going to have a hard night's sleep, right? I still go to therapy every week, even on good weeks. And my son now, like takes part in that, just by watching his father do it. He wanted to do it. And I thought that was incredible because I think it's healthy for anyone to do that. And then I remember him asking me, he's like, so what do I say, Dad? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you just go, I guess.
Just go.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot of physical, like working out is really big, eating right, I maintain a spiritual connection with my higher power as much as possible on a daily basis. I actually have a routine in the morning that I'm almost in a sense like physically and emotionally turning my life and my will over the care of the God of my understanding, because that works for me. Now, I can tell you this, I'm not perfect. Maybe by noon, I'm way off track and I have to regroup. But, if you start off your day like that and you keep the things in place that work for you, and everybody's different, but some of us have the same quirks, the same underlying issues. Like for me, I got to be, active and doing stuff and not thinking about myself, doing for others. I tend to like stay out of my own problems because it makes them go away quicker than when I get involved. They'd seem to get worse. So I try to not get involved in my own problems. But it's really about keeping something that I try to hold myself accountable every day, right? For what I know has given me this life. And if I don't do that, that's when I get lost. And like I said, like when, last year when everything hit like that, it was really hard. I ended up having to build a gym in my garage, right?
Yep.
I pieced that thing together on Amazon and eBay, There was one point where I went and got weights. I felt like it was a drug deal. He's like, yeah, I'll meet you on the corner, like
like Craigslist or something.
Bring cash, like what? So, but yeah, I mean, it was really, it had a wow factor to me because I didn't realize how all this stuff was working, right? Even like what we were talking about, the Zoom, right?
Right.
I didn't realize how like that face-to-face, how much that important that was until you don't have it.
Right.
And so that was a real world like adjustment for me. And I started to kind of put other things in place to safeguard what I do as well. So I make sure that all the time I'm staying active each day. Sundays is about the only day I really kind of lag, but mostly Monday through Saturday, I'm doing the same stuff that I did in the first month that I'm doing now. Don't go to as many of the meetings anymore, but I still go to meetings and I still, keep my faith and keep my activity and my health. So yeah, that's what works for me.
That's really
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really fabulous. That is so fabulous. So there's a question we like to ask that to leave with our listeners. If you were to give our listeners one action for the day, what would it be?
Be good to yourself. That's one thing that I've always struggled with, is being good to myself and practicing self-care, practicing healthy boundaries. It's okay to find ways to love yourself throughout the day. And it really,
I love that.
For me, it helps,
That's great.
Yeah.
William, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we went long. We're going to cut this into 2 episodes. Don't be
Which
sorry.
is awesome.
It was all great stuff. For somebody that I've known for a few years now, I've learned so much about you that I didn't know, and you blew my mind. And I think, you've been a great resource for Jason and myself, helping us navigate some of the court and legal stuff. For our listeners out there, if you guys are in Orange County or California, I assume you can probably help the whole state jurisdiction.
I can actually do national. So
even better. So if you are having legal issues or could use some direction, by all means, please reach out to William. William, where can they find you?
I have a consulting company. It's Nvoke, and it's spelled differently. It's NVOKE consultinggroup.com. And anyone can call me. Can I give them a number?
Sure.
Yeah, it's 714-803-8424. And I always tell everyone I don't work normal hours. So whenever you're in need, call. I don't mind if it's 3:00 in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. Whenever you need it, call me. So
absolutely.
You're
like
awesome,
I said,
dude.
You
Thanks.
are. You're such a great resource. And to Hillary's point, for someone that went through something as specific as you did, to be able to leverage that experience and help others, because I don't know anyone else that went to jail and decided to educate themselves on how to beat that court case, especially in the field of addiction and recovery, right? So your story, your consultancy, like everything you do is such a huge resource. So please, listeners, if you know somebody that's having a struggle with court or legal stuff around addiction, please do reach out to William.
Thank you.
Oh my
I
gosh.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was good seeing you.
It was good seeing you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Harley. I
Man,
appreciate it.
thank you, William.
Yeah.
This was amazing.
Thank you for
Thank
having me
you.
on the show. I appreciate it.